If you have anxious attachment, you are more than 99% likely to have a very strong fear of abandonment. Okay, because you feel the need to cling on to your partner, grasp so tight that they have no room to breathe, and to be able to make sure that you know everything that you can. You know exactly how they're feeling about you, more importantly. Know exactly, what they want, what they don't want in the relationship, exactly what's going on in their lives, because you want to gain a sense of control. Because if you can control this person, they can't leave you. That is your biggest fear of abandonment. I mean, including the name anxious attachment, you're anxious because you're afraid. I mean, not to say that avoidance aren't afraid, because they have a very deep fear of intimacy, which I'll probably make another video about when I know a bit more about the topic. Anxious attachment, it's the fear controls everything. Everything comes from a sense of fear. If you're thinking about what to say, if you're thinking about how to come across, you're afraid that they won't like you. If you are trying to perform and become the type of person that they want, you are afraid you're not good enough. You also most likely have a fear of rejection, like I said, because you don't feel like you're good enough. You don't feel like you deserve love. You don't feel worthy, because you've been made to feel unworthy for love, and this is a limiting belief that you've carried with you throughout your life. You probably also have a fear of being seen, and that's why you perform. That's why you try is a key word. It's always an effort. You're not effortless. You're not effortlessly being yourself. You're not being authentic. You're always trying, because you feel deep down that if you show this person who you actually are, your actual anxious, insecure self, then you're not going to be loved and you're not enough. You have probably been told your whole life that you are too sensitive, that you're too clingy, that you feel too much. You are probably someone who feels your emotions quite a lot, and more than other people, quite a sensitive person. But sensitive has become a bad word for you. It's a word with horrible connotations for you, and it makes you put your back up. You don't want to be seen as sensitive because you feel ashamed for acting out of your anxious attachment. You feel ashamed for having these big emotions, and you kind of feel unable to cope in any other way. So you act out of your anxious attachment by, for example, on the extreme end, being a bit emotionally manipulative, playing the victim, being self-deprecating, or on the less extreme end, asking for reassurance. But because you're asking for reassurance, you feel like you're too much, you feel like you're too needy, you're too clingy. So you're simultaneously too much. You and your anxious attachment, your real self is too much, but you're also not enough. Like, you're not good enough. You feel like you're not good enough. Again, take what resonates, leave what doesn't. But you feel kind of emotionally drained a lot of the time, but this doesn't stop your emotional capacity for being as big as the ocean. Where someone's emotional capacity can be as much as this glass, yours is like a bathtub, because you have all that emotional capacity and you're trying to show up for other people, because you don't want to show up for yourself. Because if you think to yourself, I'm gonna come back to myself, I'm gonna spend time on myself, you're not actively trying to make the other person like you and love you and want you and not want to leave. So by coming to yourself, you feel like you're abandoning the other person, but by putting all of your energy into the other person, you are obviously abandoning yourself. Because of this, I'm going to tell you why I think that the modern dating kind of trend of detachment, it's an absolutely amazing thing, and people need to be detached. And that's kind of our problem as people with, the problem of people with anxious attachment. You're not detached. You are so emotionally invested. You are so emotionally dependent on the other person. If you don't get your fix from the other person, if you don't get that reassurance, you're going to fall apart, because things aren't okay unless the other person likes you. So we as women, because of feminine energy coming up and arising, which is an amazing thing, we're constantly being told to pull away. Now, this is very, very hard for people with anxious attachment because, as we've discussed, all they want to do is be in the other person's space. Even if it's so emotionally draining for them, they won't be able to, a lot of times, unless they've got disorganized attachment, they won't be able to pull away from it, because if they pull away, they don't think the other person will follow. So we as women are being told to be in our feminine energy and detach. Constantly being told you need to pull away, you need to be a black cat, make him chase you. And this can be quite hard for someone with anxious attachment because that's all you're trying to do. And doing that in the face of distance, which is a huge trigger for you with anxious attachment, is very hard. It sounds very confusing. So the reason why I think this is detrimental for people with anxious attachment is because if you do this, it's not genuine. It's like Melanie and Tonia Evans says, it's like putting ice cream on top of shit. On the surface, you're being this black cat, on the surface you're unbothered, on the surface you're detached, but because you've not actually done any of the work to become detached and heal your anxious attachment, you are literally just attached, and the other person can sense this. But the worst thing is you're fooling them, but the worst thing is that you're fooling yourself and you are dismissing your own feelings and abandoning yourself just like everyone else abandoned you. And that's the reason why you have this anxious attachment. It's because you've been abandoned and you think you're not good enough, so you abandon yourself in favour of chasing other people's love and approval. So it's not genuine. You're doing it in order to get a specific response from the other person. So you are pulling away in order to get the other person to chase you. That is not genuine detachment. That is not genuine self-love, because if it was, then you wouldn't care about the other person. But the goal is to not seem like you don't care. But the thought of actually not caring is so frightening to you as someone with anxious attachment, because if you don't care, you think this relationship will crumble, because you're the one putting in all the effort, you're the one chasing after this person. Is probably a him like an avoidant attachment person. You're the one chasing after them, and you know deep down that if you pull back, then they won't follow, they won't come and chase you. Or if there's just some doubt, you don't want to take that chance. So like I say, it's a way of making them feel a certain way, which could arguably be emotionally manipulative in itself. But you are acting out of anxious attachment inadvertently, because you are doing it in order to get a response which will make you feel in the short term better with your anxious attachment. So by withdrawing, you are trying to elicit the response of him being worried about you, chasing you, putting in more effort, and these are all things that you need in order to feel secure. These are things you need in order to feel okay, like to get that hit of dopamine, to get that short term, oh okay, he does love me, oh he does like me. It's a test. It's not genuine detachment. You're not genuinely just going about your life not thinking, because I guarantee you're going around your life, you're purposefully not texting him, but you're still checking your phone to see if he's messaged you. Now, how is that genuine feminine energy? It's being twisted, and it's actually so detrimental because it's just another layer of you ignoring yourself, you ignoring your own feelings. And also, let's talk about, you will feel so bad about yourself that, why can't you seem to just emotionally detach like the other women do? Why isn't your partner chasing you like other partners are chasing their women? There must be something wrong with you. Oh, you're not good enough, It just leads you further down the rabbit hole of the I'm not good enough cycle of anxious attachment. That is also why surface level anxiety regulating techniques will not work. Okay. If someone says to you, take a fucking hot bath, go on a walk, take some time for yourself, have some time with your friends. If you've got severe anxious attachment, you're going to be sat with your friends in your body, but your mind is still with them, and it won't help anything. Like, obviously, having some distance and some time with yourself is a good thing, but it's not the cure like people are framing it to be. It's not a fake it till you make it kind of thing. Anxious attachment is a nervous system dysregulation. Your inner child is completely dysregulated. You've got this absolutely debilitating fear of abandonment and rejection, and a fear of being seen, a fear of not being good enough, that you need someone else to prove to you that you are lovable. And that's the way you've grown up, and that's not your fault, but it is your responsibility to heal it. If you want to go and have a good life, if you want to go through your relationships in a healthy manner, it's your responsibility to heal it, because you're just going to be miserable. You're just going to be miserable if you're not. Having anxious attachment and acting out of it, the hardest truth that I had to swallow is that it doesn't solve anything. For me, it made things so much worse. If I went to my partner and I was saying to him, why didn't you text me at this time? What were you doing at this time? Blah, blah, blah. If I went and catastrophized about it, because he had avoided attachment, he literally just shut me down. And I don't know what it's like to be with a securely attached person, so it's probably different for people who are anxiously attached with a secure attached person. But for me, I just got shut down anyway, and it made a lot of issues, so I still had to deal with it on my own. That was the only way that I thought my relationship would work, if I had to deal with it on my own. But you're doing it because you deserve to have a love that is reciprocal. And you deserve to have a love that makes you feel secure. But you're half of that. And when you're anxiously attached and you're fantasizing and creating this idealized version of someone in your head, you're probably more than half of that. You're probably creating a lot in the relationship. You've probably got a different relationship going on in your brain. You know, you don't know what the other person's thinking, and you will never know that for certain. And that's such a scary thing. You will never truly guarantee that you know what the other person's feeling, because they can claim to be honest with you, but because you're not them, you don't know that. So the only thing that you can do, the other person will never, never, ever, ever be able to heal your anxious attachment. Only you can do that. And it might feel so good in the moment when they give you that reassurance, or when you see a text pop up from them on your phone, but long term it creates more dependence on them to do something in order for you to feel okay. So it actually creates more emotional dependence over time. So obviously, if it is a severe thing, you have to deal with it now rather than later. But if it's something that's just surface level, you've just noticed it, nip it in the bud. What I'm saying is that I'm not saying it's not okay to be anxiously attached, because like I said, it's not your fault, and you need to forgive yourself. There is so much shame and guilt that goes into anxious attachment, because you feel like you're too much, but you also feel like you're not enough. Like, paradoxically, you feel like you're too clingy, you're too sensitive, you're too needy. By asking for reassurance, you feel like you're being needy. I'm not trying to sit here and shame you for it, because it's such a natural thing. It's such a natural thing. If you're feeling like if you're feeling not trustful in your relationship, if you don't feel that trust, it's so natural to want to go and get that from someone else. But the kind of characteristic of being excessive in anxious attachment shows that there is a nervous system dysregulation. Because by doing these surface level things, for example, saying to yourself, oh, I am securely attached, doing your affirmations, looking in the mirror, saying, I am worthy of love, I am good enough. Okay, that's great to do, but there's still shit beneath your ice cream. You've still got a nervous system dysregulation. Your inner child's still crying inside your body, wanting you to pay attention to them. So do you really think that doing some affirmations in the mirror without doing the deeper shadow work will work? No, you're still going to want to be texting that person. You're still going to be checking your phone 1,000 times a day. You're still going to be thinking, what if they don't love me? What if they don't do this? And you're still going to be emotionally draining yourself, which is the most important thing, because you deserve to have a good and fulfilling life and a good fulfilling relationship. But you need to have that with yourself. You need to give yourself everything that your caregivers or your early experiences, that early significant people didn't give to you. You need to stop abandoning yourself in favor of someone else coming to get you, coming to save you and coming to regulate you, because you are the only person who can do that. Like I said, you know that you've got a fear of abandonment, you know that you've got fear of rejection, you know that your inner child is fucked up, you know that you've got a dysregulated nervous system, and you need to forgive yourself for that. You need to forgive yourself for all of the mistakes that you think you've made. Forgive yourself for all the times that you've reached out for comfort and reassurance, and you've double checked and triple checked things. Also, if you're fucking like crazy like I was, forgive yourself for being insane. Forgive yourself and forgive the other person for all the hurt that they've caused you, because you can't move on and become a feminine energy woman without forgiving yourself. And that's something I've learned the hard way. You need to figure out your why. So, for example, I'm not saying that everyone with anxious attachment has a fear of rejection, but that's something you need to figure out for yourself. Do journaling, do your shadow work, do your meditation, whatever kind of self-healing or self-discovery method works for you. Go to therapy, talk to people, or talk to yourself on video until you can try and figure out what's going on. That is helpful to do, but I'm telling you now, it's not essential. All that matters is that you sit down with yourself and you listen to your feelings. I don't care how uncomfortable it might be. Do it for 5 minutes if you can, and then go do something else and then come back to it. Listen to yourself. Listen to your feelings. Don't act out of them. Practice being uncomfortable, and that will help you so much. Because once you start listening to yourself, and once you start listening to your feelings, and you start figuring out what's going on, only then can you figure out yourself. Only then can you know yourself and know what you need. I do quantum freedom healing, which is some kind of form of like somatic thing. So I sit and I listen to my feelings, and then I like meditate and release them. Melanie, Tonia Evans, that's what I do. I do quantum freedom healing, and it saved my life. It literally saved my life. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for that, and neither would my mom. So I'm going to link that down, and I'm going to link down different methods and resources of healing, because this video was more about the information side and the integration side, getting a bit more than surface level, getting a bit deeper. I'm going to do a video at some point, and I have already done a video of how to heal, but I'm going to do a more in-depth video at some point. But the most important thing is listen to yourself, listen to your feelings. You know, sit there in the uncomfortable emotions, cry, journal it out. You need to comfort your inner child, because it's not you, adult you, teenage you, with your rational brain. You can rationalise your feelings, and that's why you can feel shame and self-judgment and being an inner critic for yourself, because you can recognise that this behaviour is not secure. And obviously we all want to be secure, but there is a lot of pressure to be perfect and perform in a relationship. That's a big reason why you feel, you know, self-doubt and criticism, and sometimes even like debilitating lack of self-forgiveness. So you need to try and forgive yourself and reparent your inner child. And I'm going to link all the resources I use for all of this below. I hope I've covered everything that I could in this, and I hope that you found it even a little bit useful. Like I say, I am not a psychological expert. I do not have any psychology qualifications. This is all coming from my own experience, which has been very extreme. So a lot of it might not resonate for you. Take what resonates, leave what doesn't. This is all subjective, my experience. And I just wanted to add to the already massive discourse around anxious attachment in light of my recent but also very long-winded experiences. So thank you very much for listening. I really hope you got something out of this video. I'm definitely going to do some more videos on this, for example, delving more into the relationship between avoidance and anxiously attached. But just a reminder, You can heal from anxious attachment. You're not stuck with this feeling, and there have been nights where I've wanted to just go. You know, there have been nights where I've sat sobbing on my floor thinking, I can't move past this. This is the worst feeling ever. And it takes someone who has gone through the emotional shreddingness, you know, the soul ripping feeling and experience that is being severely emotionally anxiously attached. And my heart goes out for you if you're going through it right now. But let me tell you now, if once you meet yourself where you are, it will get better, and there is completely hope. But you need to stop abandoning yourself, realize your worth, and it's going to be really fucking hard. It is very difficult. I'm not going to sit here and say it's a beautiful self-love journey. Yeah, it's beautiful, but it's beautiful in that kind of grotesque way where you can't look away from something. It's a kind of car crash of life experience, but if you do it now, you won't have to suffer later. So, and if you need anything, please just comment and I'll try and help you from my obviously own experiences. But you have got this. Please keep going. It will pay off. Okay. I love you guys. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.